No one's tried to quiet me, and to be honest, it's not something I'm gonna be quiet about. I'm gonna speak the truth when I'm asked about it. It's not. This isn't for look. This isn't for publicity or anything like that. This is for people that don't have the voice, and this is for people that are being oppressed and need to have equal opportunities, to be successful, to provide for their families, and not live in poor circumstances.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Prime. And you all know where I'm going with this one. Just like everybody else in the news is. That was Colin Kaepernick on his reasoning for not standing up for the national anthem and sitting down during the national anthem, and these are his words, and standing up for the people. Very courageous move by a top athlete in a sport in America where, let's be honest everybody, football rules in this country. This is the only country where they play football, American football, at this type of high level degree. I mean, they don't even play football really worldwide or at all, like basketball or soccer or wrestling or anything. Football is our sport. I didn't include baseball either. Football is our sport, and for Colin Kaepernick to sit down during the national anthem, I applaud him for his reasons. And more athletes need to stand up for the people, because there are real problems going on in this nation regarding people of color. And it has been going on for years and years and years. And people just want to bury it and let us not and forget about it. I'm also going to cover, I'm going to go over Rio a little bit, 2016. I'm going to go over, college football starts today, Thursday kickoff. We got Tennessee versus Appalachian State and Charlotte versus Louisville. So, everybody sit back, relax. I'm going to talk about the slate for this Saturday. And I'm going to go on the issue at hand with Colin Kaepernick. I applaud this man. I love this country. Don't get me wrong. Before I even start and before I get negative reviews or negative comments from anybody, I love this country. I stand up for the national anthem because I believe in this country. Without this country, my people wouldn't have been able. I'm a Puerto Rican descent. Okay, I'm a second generation. While, you got other people who are 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th generations in this country that are living today. I am a second generation Puerto Rican in this country. And I love this country because it has given my people an opportunity and an outlet to come here without having to go through the stresses of, trying to become a U.S. citizen or, finding jobs or anything in that matter. It has given me the opportunity to live freely, where in other countries, I could be in a communist country in Russia or China or whatever the case is, and I can be born with my occupation. I can be killed for my religious beliefs and my political views. I can be chastised for whatever I say just because of what I stand up for in other countries. And let's just put this into perspective. There's war-torn countries out there that are really bad. But in America, it's supposed to be a free country, an equal opportunity country. And I love it for that. I love America. But do I agree with a lot of the moral decisions that has happened in its history? No. I disagree with a lot of things that has happened in this country. And to be honest with you and quite frank, just using Puerto Rico as a small example, U.S. Virgin Islands as well. Do you think we would really be, because I know for 500 years we were under the rule of Spanish rule, and they treated Puerto Ricans, they took the Taino Indian, they killed the Taino Indians, they raped the Taino Indians, they slaved the Taino Indians, they brought slaves from Africa into Puerto Rico. And for 500 years, they stomped on us. And then the Americans came in and took it over. And they said, hey, enough is enough. You guys can't be treating this small island. They're defenseless. We were defenseless. We had no knowledge of any type of technological warfare, any advanced warfare, even in the 1500s. In the 1400s, Spanish were far, far, far ahead of us. So when I look at Puerto Rico and I look at the U.S. Virgin Islands, I look at the reasons why the America has taken those countries and has made those countries, a commonwealth. And sometimes I look at it as like it's a money venture because Puerto Rico is one of the top tourist destinations for Americans. U.S. Virgin Islands is right up there as well. And they make a lot of, America makes, in terms of tourists and, businesses in Puerto Rico and U.S. Virgin, they make a lot of money off of that. And so when you start to look at some of the certain things that they say in the news or they say in public, oh, you're helping the people. We're doing things to provide for the people. Well, sometimes it looks like when I go to Puerto Rico, there's no resources out there for them. I look at the poor people in Puerto Rico, there's no resources out there for them. Go to the U.S. Virgin Islands, you see the poverty over there as well. But, we could come over here and we can be, U.S. citizens, without any of the hassle. But America is a great country, but it's also it's got a lot of bad history. It's got a lot of bad blood on that flag. And I applaud Colin Kaepernick for standing up by sitting down, because let's not get this wrong. America is let's say 40, 50. I'm going to go with a ballpark around 50, only 50 plus years removed from Jim Crow law. That's remarkable. Let's think about this. 50 plus years ago in the South, blacks couldn't eat with whites. Blacks couldn't use the same bathroom as whites. Blacks had to drink out of a different water fountain. Blacks didn't have the and I want to be politically correct by saying African American, but I have a lot of African American friends and they say I don't like being called African American because I'm not from Africa. I was born in America. Call me a black man. Call me a black woman. And I could only respect that, because that African American is something that the government put on them. They created that. They said, hey, you're going to be an African American, not an American, not a black American, and not a regular American like an Irish or an Italian or a person of English descent. They're not just American. They're not English American. They're not Italian American or Irish American. Even though they like to say and consider that, they throw those words out to underline the fact that they created that. And going back to just the oppression and the stuff that happened in the 60s and, before that, all the lynchings and all of that, Emmett Till and a lot of other people, a lot of other families that were oppressed and put down for generations at a time. I mean, this country was built on the backs of slavery. Let's just put that out there. Without free labor of hundreds of years of free labor, really, are you serious? But yet, in today, you want a black athlete to go score touchdowns. You want a black athlete to go dunk a basketball. You want a black athlete to go hit a home run. But you don't want a black athlete to stand up for his people. That right there is ridiculous. And there's a lot of words that I can say to a lot of people in America right now who are calling Kaepernick and a lot of racial slurs, who are burning his jersey, who are, denaming him, defaming him. A lot of nasty things people are saying. There are even veterans that are sticking up for Colin Kaepernick's beliefs. there are veterans for sticking up for this man. And that's saying something, that even your people in the army are saying, hey, I fought for this country, but I believe in what he's saying. And that's powerful right there. And I think what Colin Kaepernick is doing, mission is accomplished, because I'm even talking about it. Everybody around the country is talking about it. I don't even want to say around the world, because people around the world don't care about the American flag. Who cares about the American flag in Spain, or who cares about the American flag in Africa? Ain't nobody talking about that worldwide. They're like, America? What? So people around the country are talking. This is like wildfire spreading. And mission is accomplished, because this is what he wanted. He wanted people to talk about this. He wanted people to talk about the racial prejudices and the oppression that is going on right now to this day. I'm from Chicago, one of the most segregated cities in the world. And in the country, I'm sorry. And also one of the most diverse, they have one of the most diverse sections in the country as well, on the north side of Chicago, when you go to Rogers Park or Uptown. So when I look at Chicago, I look at it as a microcosm of America and what's going on in Chicago. I think about 80 plus people over this past weekend were shot. 14 died, homicides. And I'll tell you the reason why. Lack of funding, the closing of schools, no programs, no resources. If you are driving through the west side of Chicago, or you are going through Austin or the Garfield Park neighborhood, you will see that there are lack of businesses in those communities. There are nothing but little bodegas and small chain convenience stores in those neighborhoods, and people have to travel far distances to go to a Walmart or a Target or whatever the case is. And just, go through those neighborhoods and you'll see boarded up houses, burned down houses. You'll see vacant lots. You'll see schools that are closed down, like I said. So a lot of these kids, 15, 16 years old, a lot of the teachers that are trying to teach these kids some type of, education, they don't even care. These kids, they're not learning the right appropriate fundamentals of, getting up early, being responsible, trying to, go to school and educate yourself. A lot of these kids are just trying to survive. In my high school alone, and I went to a school called Prosser, which is on the northwest side. My high school alone, I believe they reported that there was 50-something homeless kids in my high school alone. And my high school isn't even one of the worst schools in the public school. I mean, I would say it's an average school. It's a pretty decent school if you are coming from the west side or the northwest side of Chicago. But there's still homeless kids. So think about more poor areas where a lot of these kids are homeless. They don't have no place to sleep. So the only resort is to go out there and to sell narcotics, or to go out there and some of these gangs that they join, that's their family. The guy that's giving them the drugs to sell, that's like their father. He's giving them an opportunity to make money. Do I agree with it? Is it morally right? No. These kids need to be in school before it gets too late. And then when it gets too late and you're too far in the game, you can't get out of the game. A lot of these young kids are just shooting each other like it's for play, like it's laser tag or paintball. But it's not. There's a lot of hatred amongst each other. And that's due to the fact because there's a lot of gang territory, drug territory that people are trying to get. When somebody is taking over, they want to take another person over. When they're not making enough money as another person, they want to get rid of that person so they can make that money. That's what's going on in urban America. That's what's a microcosm that's happening in Chicago. And that's what's pretty much that's going on in America. And it was systematically put in that way over generations, the time of a people that you put down. The government put people down, people of color down for so many years, for generations. Gave them lack of resources back then, and they're giving them lack of resources right now. Look at all the police shootings that are happening towards black males. Philando Castile, Mike Brown, and so forth. Where's the justice from then? You got guys that were sitting in a year. I mean, look at the kid from Chicago that got shot multiple times, where the video just came out a year later, where the guy was still on desk duty for a whole year, and they saw the video. They knew how the video looked. They saw it. I believe his name was Laquan McDonald. They saw these videos. And they still allowed this man to work as a Chicago police officer. And so that is what Colin Kaepernick is standing up for. That is what Colin Kaepernick is telling people. This is the reason why. This is not for attention for me. This is not attention for anybody else. This is the attention for real reasons. For real reasons. And more athletes need to stand up and stick out. LeBron James, Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, they all stood up in front of it. It started with them standing up in front of the ESPYs and saying something about it. Saying something that we need to stop the violence. Well, you know what? We need to stop the oppression. We need to stop the bringing down of a people. And you can't tell. And there's a lot of negative reaction. Of course, there's always going to be negative reaction when it comes to America. When it comes to the flag. And I'm sorry, I got my son here with me. And he is, moving around and shaking. So sorry about the background noise. But you're talking about a lot of issues that are going on in this country that are going under the radar. That people are just like, let's sweep it under the rug. Jim Crow law, forget about it. Slavery, forget about it. It's not happening today. It didn't happen to you, did it? Well, if you don't want anybody to say anything about it, then why teach it in history classes? Why bring it up in school if you don't want any of these people to have to be educated? Because people can't forget their history. You can't forget what you did to people in generations of the past. You can't forget what you did to their ancestors. You can't forget that. And so for people in America to be like, just sweep it under the rug. It didn't happen. It never happened. These people can't voice their opinions. You're trying to quiet them. You're trying to say that this man can't voice his opinion on a social issue, but he can throw a football and score touchdowns. He can dunk a basketball and win you games. He can make you millions of dollars and putting fans in the seats. And those same fans that are calling him the N-word, and those same fans that are giving him racial slurs, like other black athletes. They're going out and they're rooting for other black athletes. So what's the difference between you calling Colin Kaepernick an N-word, but yet you're going to go root for, let's say, Frank Gore, not Frank Gore, but who's the running back? Chris, I don't want to say Chris Wells. Can't remember. Doesn't matter. Any other black athlete. Let's go. I'm from Northern Illinois. Jimmy Ward's on that team. He's a nickel corner on that team. You're going to go call Colin Kaepernick the N-word, but you're going to still go root for Jimmy Ward or somebody. Come on now. That is completely ridiculous and so stupid and so disrespectful. You got to stand up for the national anthem. It's just the right thing to do. It's American. It wasn't American when you guys told black people they couldn't get a job with a white person, that they couldn't piss in the same stalls as a white person, that they couldn't drink the same water as a white person, or you had them on the cotton fields picking cotton for hundreds of years for free, lynching black people for years. But you weren't saying anything about that, right? You weren't saying anything about when young black men were getting shot down by police officers. You weren't saying anything about that, right? But you could say something about Colin Kaepernick not standing up for the national anthem. Because Jackie Robinson did that back then during the 60s as well. And he got a lot of flack for it. And that was during the time when it was publicly blatant that black people were being put down and oppressed. And didn't have the same rights as a white man. So, I am so, as an American right now, I am so fed up with a lot of Americans right now. And it's not just Caucasians. It's African Americans as well as that are saying, hey, this guy's wrong, da 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 da. Don't forget what happened. I mean, this is something bigger than what Colin Kaepernick's doing. He's standing up for people of color. He's standing up. This is not a white or black thing. He's saying that people in poverty and people of color are being oppressed. And it's right. It's true. You see it every day. If you go into neighborhoods, where do you see the most police presence? In black communities, Hispanic communities. They're shaking down people. I could remember one time I was just walking down the alley. I mean, come on, what's wrong with walking down the alley? I was walking down the alley and it was about 10 degrees outside. I had my hands in my hoodie and a police officer pulled me over and shook me down and told me, do you have any drugs on you? Are you kidding me? I was like 12 years old. This is stuff they're doing. And some of these guys even are so corrupt to the fact where they will plant the drugs on you and say, hey, oh, you got this bag of crack or this bag of marijuana on you. I never had that on me. So, for people to say that this stuff doesn't happen in America, or for people to laugh about it, or to think that this is just a game, it's wrong. These are real issues. These are real people. These are Americans. And for you to say this is un-American or unjustly, I mean, the U.S. Constitution is so old to the fact where it doesn't even apply to anybody today. They need to rethink about making the U.S. Constitution. I'm sorry. You could say any negative comments to me about it. But the U.S. Constitution was not made for people of color. Come on now. All men are created equal. Yeah, that's not true. And so, with that being said, I wanted to weigh in on that. And I don't like to weigh in on a lot of social issues on this show. Maybe I should, man. Maybe I should. Because I don't like to derive away from my sports topics. But I had to talk about this. This is something that is very serious, man. And I applaud Colin Kaepernick for his courageous movement. And I think there's a game today. He's going to do the same thing today. And it's like it's like some type of 28th annual appreciation for armed forces members in San Diego. And there's going to be a lot of military tribute, and there's going to be a lot of of the flag. And he's going to sit down in all of it. And I'm going to applaud him for that. And a lot of people are like, oh, don't spread it like wildfire, or where other people are sitting. More people should sit down. More people should sit down. Because what you're seeing in this country, in these communities, is wrong. Is absolutely wrong. I mean, even and I'm talking about Chicago here, just alone. Like I said, microcosm. Even if you go to like Uptown or like East Rogers Park, where you think, oh, the north side of Chicago is all nice and dandy. No. Go to Uptown in the middle of the night and you'll see what goes on. Go to East Rogers Park in the middle of the night by Loyola and you'll see what's going on. Yeah, some of these neighborhoods look nice, but a lot of these dudes are misguided. And it is what it is, man. People out here are trying to survive. And I look at like Chicago public school system, or I look at a kid from Chicago to get a good education in Chicago, you either have to, to get a really, really good education in Chicago, you really have to either test well into like a Lane Tech or Whitney Young or Northside College Prep, or you have to pay for your education. Like going to a Chicago Catholic school or a Christian academy. When you look at the Noble charter schools, you still have to test into those schools. You still have to be accepted into those schools. And so, when you look at like a Naperville, or I'm just talking about Illinois itself, because I'm from Illinois. You look at these certain suburbs and all these kids. I know the funding's different, and a lot of parents put in their own money into these communities or whatever. But these kids are way better off than kids in Chicago. I mean, let's be honest, man. These kids be driving when they're a senior or a junior in high school. They're driving to class in a BMW or something. I mean, I see freshmen coming out here. They're 18 years old. Come on, man. Ain't no freshman gonna have no 2015 BMW X5. Are you serious? Are you serious? Come on. Let's be serious, man. You're 18 years old. You ain't making six figures or any type of money like that. So, when it comes down to it, the resources are not in Chicago, and that's so messed up. The resources are only for certain people in Illinois, and that's a microcosm of the country because it goes all over the country. The resources are dried up in Chicago. The funding is dried up in Chicago. The funding's dried up for a lot of rural black communities and a lot of communities of people below the poverty line in America. They're dried up, and so you see a lot of people doing a lot of illegal things to get by, to buy diapers, to buy milk, to buy formula, to buy clothes for their kids, to pay the rent. And when Colin Kaepernick says we need the resources for my people to live freely, to live a good life, what's wrong about standing up about that? You want to burn his jersey? I didn't see you burn cop uniforms when they killed Mike Brown or when they killed Philando Castile. I didn't see you, or when they killed the man in Louisiana for selling CDs. The man was selling CDs, man. I mean, come on. So, the oppression still goes on today in this days, and a lot of people need to realize that and hush their mouth when and you know what? You have the same right as Colin Kaepernick does of free speech. You have those same rights. You have those same rights. And so, just as positively as he wants to speak, you guys can speak negatively towards him as well, and not get. And that's the joy of America, is that we have freedom of speech in certain avenues, because they like to say you have a lot of freedom of speech, but if you do say some certain things, you can't go to jail for it. But Colin Kaepernick, definitely, I applaud you for standing up by sitting down. I don't want to go too much on it. I weighed in enough on it. I'm going to go over Rio. And Rio ended, I want to say last week or 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. And I watched Rio a little bit. I watched the Olympics a little bit. There's 42 sports. It's hard to keep up, first of all. And like me, when I was in high school and in elementary school, I used to wrestle. And so my big thing was I watched all of the freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling, even the women's wrestling, and there was there were a few outstanding teams. But I want to start Rio off with one of the bigger stories that happened at the end of Rio, that had nothing to do with an athletic accomplishment, and it had everything to do with a dumb athlete who is pampered and thought that he was going to get away with something so stupid. Ryan Lochte, you're an idiot. What's wrong with you? Why lie about that? And that goes on. I mean, I could link the Colin Kaepernick thing. I mean, we could say white privilege, but I mean, it looks like it. I mean, the kid thought that he can get away with something so stupid. The kid thought that he can. Well, not the kid. He ain't even no kid. That's a grown man. He's like in his 30s. A lot of people are like, oh, he's a kid. Let him get rid of it. Oh, he's a kid. He's okay. You know, it's all right. But if it was a black, like Simone, not Simone Biles, but Gabby Douglas didn't put her heart on her chest or something like that. When the national anthem was being played, and she got so much flack for it. Oh, she's disrespectful to the American flag. Are you serious? Are you freaking serious? You people have nothing else to talk about but negative reactions when it comes to somebody that's a minority. But if it was somebody that's like Ryan Lochte, you say, oh, he's a kid. Oh, the guy, the Stanford swimmer, he raped the girl. Oh, he made a mistake. He was a kid. Are you serious? Ryan Lochte's an idiot. Why vandalize and do that stuff and then lie about it? Say, oh, he brought a gun into my face and he said that my life was in danger. No, it wasn't. We saw the camera. We saw the footage, you idiot. You're a dummy. And I don't want to use these words. It sounds unprofessional, but man, come on, man. I'm gonna be blatant with it, man. This guy is an idiot, man. Stupid. It's my show, and I can say that. And I don't care what anybody else has to say. Has all these great Olympic accomplishments for the United States of America, a great country, a country that that you're gonna go represent. That even if you're Arabian American or you're Italian or Irish American, you came in here, you got your U.S. citizenship, you can represent this country in the Olympics. And so for Ryan Lochte, you're an idiot, dude. Come on, man. I mean, that was just it was just like a third grade lie. It's like the teacher caught you red-handed, but you still want to lie on the teacher. Or it's like basically saying, like, say he stole his mother's money, but he wants to blame his friend. That's the type of kid I think Ryan Lochte was. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it blows my mind on how this guy was just so ridiculous. So ridiculous. And I have nothing else to say about him because I don't even want to waste my time anymore on Ryan Lochte. Because I already got it out. I could keep saying that he's a stupid, ridiculous, dumb idiot. What I am going to say is there were a few great things that happened. Simone Biles, she just took over the Olympics. I mean, she was flat out amazing. Perfection at its finest when it comes to gymnastics. I want to say her name's the black swimmer, African American swimmer, Manuel. She won gold. I mean, I think that's the first African American swimmer to win a gold medal in the Olympics, and that's a big accomplishment as well. Michael Phelps, I believe, has the most Olympic gold medals as an American or something like that. Usain Bolt ended. I think both of those guys are retiring, if I'm not mistaken. But Usain Bolt, just blew everybody out the water again in track and field. These are things. These are notable events that I'm talking about. And when it comes to like overall, the United States blew everybody out of the water in Rio, and China was a far second place. Great Britain was a third. And a far third, Russia was a far fourth, and Germany was a far fifth. In total first of all, the United States won 46 gold medals. Blew China, they won 20 more than China. In total medals, the United States won 121 total medals at Rio, to China's far second 70. That is a athletic supremacy at its finest. When it comes to the United States, as athletic supremacy at its finest. And so I'm gonna talk about wrestling because that's my sport, and I want to talk about a little bit more in depth on that. Kyle Schneider, at the 96 kilogram weight class in freestyle, was the youngest American to win gold. I think he beat Henry Cejudo out by a couple months or so. Helen Maroulis. Helen Maroulis beat, I think, the Japanese superstar. She hasn't lost in years. She hasn't lost a world competition in over 4 or 5 years. and she was like the world's number one. She was so dominating in the sport of wrestling and freestyle. The Japanese wrestler, and Helen Maroulis won. It was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. So there was some disappointment. Jordan Burroughs didn't win. I'm talking about just the American side. Jordan Burroughs, he was supposed to be the poster boy. He did not win gold, and a lot of people wanted him to win gold, but it is what it is. He ran into a better wrestler, and that's what happens. I mean, wrestling is a one-on-one sport, and you can't blame anybody but yourself. And Jordan Burroughs, I believe he wasn't even 100% healthy at the time, so I don't want to put that as a blame. He doesn't want to put that as a blame, but he's still one of the greatest wrestlers that this nation has to offer. And also a notable, and he wasn't even from this country, that I was very impressed with. In the freestyle class at the Olympics. And I believe it was I want to say it was the 88 kilogram class, the class before Kyle Snyder won freestyle. His name was he's from Russia. I believe it was Abdul. I can't really. It's his last name. His last name is Sudaev or something like that. Russian. He was the third youngest Olympic wrestler in all the countries that ever participated in the Olympics to win a gold medal. He's only 20 years old. He's like only 19, 20 years old. He is. I have to say, this guy from Russia, is flat out. I think I've never seen a better wrestler than him. I mean, I looked at, Cael Sanderson, Dan Gable, Joe Williams, or whatever the case is. I don't think Williams even won gold. But when you look at this guy, he's built like a machine. I mean, this guy's ripped. And this guy's only 19, 20 years old. I mean, he just flat out destroyed guys, grown men that were like 20, that have been wrestling way longer than him. And so, when it comes down to wrestling, obviously the American way is folk style, and so a lot of guys when they're wrestling in America, they're training at the age of 3 or 4 or 5, but they're wrestling folk style, and that's the thing. It's folk style. No locked hands. The point systems are a lot different. They call a lot more stalling. They call a lot more stalling calls. The referees, they don't put you in certain positions. They don't give you a time clock to score a point, and then they give you a point. I mean, the Olympic rules, the world rules on freestyle and Greco are a lot harsher than folk style rules. I mean, and not a lot harsher, but in terms of folk style, I think Americans, if a guy from Russia, or say whatever the fact is, tried to wrestle one of these top flight athletes in America at folk style wrestling, a lot of Americans would just blow them out the water because those guys we have a certain advantage at folk style wrestling. They have the advantage at freestyle and Greco because at a young age, that's all they're doing is they're wrestling freestyle and Greco. It's, and America's basically trying to, they're trying to train a lot of their young guys on folk style and on freestyle and Greco, but a lot of guys aren't. They're gonna go to high school. They're probably gonna wrestle in college and maybe place, maybe not place, win first or whatever the case is. And only a certain few or chosen few are gonna try and are gonna go vie for the Olympics. So, a lot of the high school wrestlers, a lot of wrestlers in general. They their first freestyle or Greco matches in high school when probably Abdul Rahim Sudaev from Russia, the 19-year-old, he's been wrestling freestyle since he was like 4 years old. So his rules are different. The way he wrestled was different. And so That's where USA Wrestling is at right now, and they're improving. And they're they got Olympic training centers in Colorado and all over, and certain different wrestling clubs, and they're trying to improve their wrestlers' knowledge of freestyle and Greco, and it's just all about repetition. It's all about knowledge, and it's all about it's all about putting in the hard work and having good work ethic when it comes to that. And so, obviously a lot of the, Iranians and Russians, they're ahead of us in terms of freestyle and Greco. But at the same time, we're coming for them. A lot of Americans are coming for them. Let me switch over to the U.S. basketball, men's and women's. We blew everybody out the water. Let's just put it like that. Australia scared them in the early rounds, in terms of men's basketball. U.S. women's didn't have any type of threat. They just blew through everybody. But when it comes down to the men's game, I think Spain gave them a little bit of a hassle. I think in the quarter or in the semis or whatever the case is, or the quarters, and Australia gave them a little bit of some competition. But let me tell you this right now. Right now. If the Australians had Thon Maker, if the Australians had Ben Simmons, and if the Australians had Dante Exum, they would have beat the United States in that early round. They would have beat them. And I'm thinking next Olympics, those three guys will be on that team. So the Americans better watch out, because Australia is going to come for them next Olympics. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know where the next Olympics is going to be held at. It doesn't matter. Next Olympics, or I think the next time they will face them is probably in the Worlds 2 years from now, in the FIBAs. So watch out, because those three guys, I know Ben Simmons, he didn't do it, he didn't, try and, represent his country this time around. But I know next time around, they have Ben Simmons, if they have Dante Exum, and if they have Thon Maker, that Australia team with, Patty Mills and Matthew Dellavedova and Andrew Bogut probably still there, Joe Ingles, that's a good team. That's a good team, and that's a team that can beat the United States of America. Women's basketball, I'm not even worried about it. It's like the University of Connecticut all over again. They're just blowing through competition. So, with that being said, that's gonna recap Rio on that one. On that note, we got another 4 years till we hit the next Olympic Games. But today marks a beautiful day. It's Thursday, and it is the start of college football, and that means college football is around the... college football is here! So, let's talk about college football. Hey, the two games tonight, they ain't going to be interesting. Tennessee versus Appalachian State, Charlotte versus Louisville. We already know. Whoever, if Appalachian State, they have proven to, do some upsets. Week 1, they beat Michigan a few years back at the Big House. And so... college football is here, baby. And then, you know what happens this week? It's college football. And then next week is week 1 of the NFL. So, we're all happy for this. Football is here. Finally, football is here. Next podcast, I am going to talk about baseball. Because we're in the last month of the season. And October's almost here. And there's a lot of things to cover in baseball. And I'm just going to put a podcast just solely for baseball. Next one, I'm coming up. But... there was a few things. LSU plays Wisconsin at Lambeau Field this Saturday night. And there were some things about Les Miles saying, if my players jump into the stands, they're going to have to hitchhike it home. Yeah, right. You think Leonard Fournette is going to not score a touchdown and jump into the stands and do a Lambeau leap? Come on, man. You're playing in one of the greatest stadiums in America. And with the greatest traditions in America's sports history is the Lambeau leap. And you're not going to let your college players get a 15-yard penalty just so they can have fun, and jump into the stands saying, this is college football. You're lame. I mean, that's just a lame excuse. And I'm going to be blatant with it. Maybe I sound unprofessional by saying he's a lame. But come on, man. Let's be serious. Let's be serious here. Okay? Les Miles, you're not going to have Leonard Fournette hitchhike it home. Let's be serious, dude. You're not. And so I hope that, and I think one of the LSU cornerbacks, and he's a punt returner, kick returner, and he's like a specialist or whatever the case is. He says if he scores a touchdown, he's definitely jumping into the stands into some LSU fans. Okay? So the Lambeau leap, man, I don't care. Wisconsin players, they're probably gonna do. I bet the Wisconsin coach probably gonna be like, "Hey, man, you guys could go jump into the stands 1 or 2 times. Who cares, man? 15-yard penalty. I mean, that's only preparing your kicker for the NFL because they're already about 10 yards away. You know, kicking the extra point anyways. So I think there's nothing wrong with having your college athlete jump into the stands, into his fans. Who cares? I mean, Les Miles, it's just college football. You're making like $1 million off these dudes, like, per year. Who cares? Let them jump into the stands. So what? Looking at the Saturday slate, and there's some good games that are gonna be on TV this Saturday. Notably, the LSU Wisconsin game. I think, and obviously the first week of the season, you got big time programs playing lesser programs. They're playing, Michigan's playing Hawaii. That's a win for Michigan. Bowling Green's playing, Ohio State's playing Bowling Green. That's a win for Ohio State, obviously. Washington, Rutgers, that'll be a little bit sort of competitive, but Rutgers has been in the bottom of the Big Ten for a couple years now. Southeast Louisiana playing Oklahoma State. Obviously Oklahoma State's going to Iowa playing Miami of Ohio. Obviously Iowa's ranked number 17. Number 16 UCLA versus Texas A&M. That might be a game where Texas A&M could sneak and beat UCLA. In that game, UC Davis playing Oregon. There's a couple other good games. Georgia versus North Carolina. That could be a very tight game right there. Florida versus UMass. Obviously, Florida's going to win that. Alabama versus USC. That could be competitive, but Alabama's number 1 team in the nation. USC's number 20. I could see that game kind of getting out of hand by the third quarter or so. You got, TCU versus South Dakota State. Playing, TCU's probably going to blow them out the water. I think South Dakota State, I think the Jackrabbits, I think they're Division I AA power, FCS instead of FBS. They're FCS powerhouse, South Dakota State, or is that, no, that's North Dakota State. Sorry about that. But anyways, TCU's probably going to, blow them out the water. Clemson versus Auburn. Clemson's number two team in the nation next to Alabama, and people probably when they look at the national championship, they think Clemson. It's going to be Clemson and Alabama when it comes down to it. And so they're playing Auburn. So Auburn's not ranked, but that's not a game I don't think Auburn's going to win against Clemson. They got Clemson favored by 7.5 points. And then Notre Dame plays Texas on Sunday, which is pretty neat. They play them at 6:30 p.m. And then Ole Miss and Florida State on Monday, and that's going to be a really good game right there. They got Florida State by 4 points, or basically a field goal. So, when I look at this first week of college football, it's pretty interesting. There's a few good games. One of the better games that I think is going to happen is Oklahoma versus Houston, number 3 team in the nation versus number 15 team in the nation. They got Oklahoma favored by a touchdown and a half. So I think Oklahoma, that game's going to be a little bit closer than people think. I think the LSU-Wisconsin game, they got LSU by 10 points. I think that game's going to be a lot closer than what people think. And that UCLA game, a lot of people have Texas A&M winning by a field goal. I have Texas A&M pulling off the upset as well. So I think that Georgia-North Carolina game is going to be a good game. So there's going to be a lot of, there's going to be some games out here this weekend that are going to be good. I'm really looking forward to Monday's game, the Ole Miss-Florida State. That's going to be a really, really, really good game. I'm really looking forward to that one. And so, with that being said, if I'm gonna do some type of preview, a quick preview of like who's gonna win the Heisman or something like that. Okay, the Heisman is interesting. I mean, you're not gonna know who's gonna really win the Heisman after the first few games of the season, but we got some firm runners: Leonard Fournette, Deshaun Watson, Christian McCaffrey. Those 3 guys right there alone are probably going to be the 3 guys that we talk about all year long when it comes to Heisman consideration. And I think when it comes down to it all, Deshaun Watson wins the Heisman because if he has another season like he did last year or even better, then I think Deshaun Watson definitely wins the Heisman. I think he threw for like 4,000 passing yards and had like 1,000 rushing yards with something ridiculous type of touchdown number, like in the 40s or 50s or something like that. And so I think if he replicates that type of season and he has an even better season, I think he edges out, especially if his team is, you know, top 2 teams in the nation and they're like one of those 4 playoff teams. He's definitely gonna win the Heisman. If Leonard Fournette, you know, breaks Barry Sanders' record or something like that, he'll win the Heisman. Christian McCaffrey, McCaffrey, I think he led the nation in all-purpose yards last year or something like that. I think McCaffrey, if he, I think he's the guy. He's the third place guy. I don't think, you know, a lot of guys are like, oh, McCaffrey could win it, but I mean, if he has some type of ridiculous year again, then he can win the Heisman. You know, if Stanford's like a top 5 team at the end of the year. But I don't see it. I really don't. I don't think that team has enough talent to be a top 5 team at the end of the year or a top 4 playoff team at the end of the year. But I do see, basically the Heisman being Deshaun Watson's to lose, in my opinion, because he has the number 2 team in the nation and he has the keys to one of the best teams in the nation. And all he has to do is just be a little bit better than he was last year and have his team in a national championship again. And he will win the national and he would win the Heisman. So with that being said, everybody go subscribe to the Prime Sports World YouTube page. I'm actually gonna be, in a couple weeks, my website, the sports website, is going to be starting. I'm going to have an internship program, so everybody look out for that. I will post that I will post that at the end of my shows. Go apply for the internship program. Go, shoot me an email if you want to do a freelance writer, be a freelance writer for your state or for your favorite team or for your school, for that matter. I'm just trying to, do something good for a lot of people that are looking to put out some of their work on an outlet. So like I said, go subscribe, go like the Prime Sports World Facebook page, go comment, give me your comments on the Colin Kaepernick ordeal and situation. And with that being said, like I said, I post this on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I want to get a SoundCloud, but I don't think it's necessary. But, everybody, just like I said, go like it, go comment it. And, I post everything regularly, at least 3 times a week. The Prime comes up. So, everybody have a nice day. It's Thursday. If you're going out tonight, drink responsibly. And see you next time. Until then, peace out.